El Salvador has saved crypto, guys, with this one stunt.
El Salvador. For a long time, cocoa was used, and then the colón, until it was replaced by the US dollar. In 2021, El Salvador became the first country in the world to use Bitcoin as legal tender.
Yeah! They actually used to use cocoa beans as currency. That's interesting, isn't it? It's still more useful than using Bitcoin. They should just go back to the cocoa beans. At least the cocoa beans had some kind of value, you know? This just shows just how fucking ridiculous the crypto market is as a whole, because they just had to do this one stunt. And Bitcoin is just now on the up and up. Let's see where it is now. I think this is where she brought it up, isn't it? Like that was yesterday. She brought it all the way up, but it's started to kind of go down a bit again. What do you think? Stonks only up. Still not looking great. I mean, it's been brought back over 20,000 USD, hanging around 16,000 for a while, but they have this populist president. I'm not part of either of these parties. I'm here to represent something new and exciting. And that new and exciting thing was, I'm a crypto bro. Oh, and he calls himself it was something like a fun dictator. Very weird. El Salvador is a very poor country, and basically this new president guy's come in. Bukele, how did you say his name? Honestly though, he's the worst guy. Yeah, oh god, he calls himself a cool dictator. Just look at his face. Ugh, he's the worst guy ever. He's like every crypto bro, but he's the worst crypto bro because he has actual power. Fucking loves Donald Trump. He was so excited to be here.
The president has done an incredible job with MS-13. He realizes what a threat they are, and they have been very, very tough. And we all appreciate that. And thank you very much for the agreement.
God, he just like jizz. You literally just need to read through what has happened in El Salvador since they've brought in Bitcoin as legal tender. And it's just L after L after L. Here it is. Bukele announced that he planned to introduce a bill to Legislative Assembly which would make El Salvador the first nation to make Bitcoin a legal tender. The Legislative Assembly approved the bill on the 8th of June 2021, and it was scheduled to come into effect on the 7th of September 2021. On the 17th of June 2021, the World Bank rejected a request from El Salvador to assist with the implementation of Bitcoin as legal tender, citing concerns over transparency and the environmental effects of Bitcoin mining. Athena Bitcoin stated that it intended to invest $1 million into installing 1,500 cryptocurrency ATMs, which will be able to exchange the US dollar for Bitcoin or vice versa. Lovely, attractive things. Yeah. What's on that table? What's that? Cocoa beans for when it breaks. If you can't get any crypto out of the machine, we'll just revert back to cocoa beans. The following day, the Bitcoin law came into effect, making Bitcoin legal tender in El Salvador. The same day, Bitcoin crashed, falling from $52,000 per Bitcoin to under $43,000. Meanwhile, platforms such as Apple and Huawei weren't offering the Salvadoran government-backed digital wallet, while internet servers were forced to move offline after they were overwhelmed with user registrations. This went really well, guys. This went really well. Oopsie! El Salvador now has the most distressed sovereign debt in the world, and it's because of the Bitcoin folly. So basically, yeah, El Salvador's adoption of Bitcoin is going great. David Gerard has done like a full write-up of it. He's basically broken it down in these bullet points pretty well. There's almost no use of Bitcoin as a currency. The official Chivo wallet is hardly used, and they never did get it working properly. Businesses have taken down their "We accept Bitcoin" signs. Crypto crashed, as well as screwing over local Bitcoin holders. This halved the face value of the government Bitcoin reserve. Everyone in the country was given $30 worth of US Bitcoin. It went so badly that Bitcoin immediately crashed, and then they watched in like real time as the value of that in US dollars went down. El Salvador can't borrow internationally. The IMF won't talk to them while Bitcoin is in place. Price of Salvadoran sovereign debt has fallen through the floor, as has El Salvador's credit rating. The Bitcoin volcano bonds supposedly had 1.5 billion of buyer interest lined up. Then Russia invaded Ukraine and those buyers vanished. So yeah, it's been a massive failure for El Salvador. And this Miss Universe thing is a marketing campaign because Bukele's like desperately trying to get the price of Bitcoin back up. And it looks like it's worked a little bit. But this Bitcoin city is basically, they haven't even started building it at all. It's like The Line, but worse. It's so ridiculous.
That's the actual president of El Salvador announcing plans for a new Bitcoin city in the country. It'll have digital amenities like galleries for non-fungible tokens or NFTs, museums on the history of money, and of course everyone's going to be encouraged to use Bitcoin.
I would say there's definitely more cringe than The Line. I don't know about you, but I feel like it's definitely more cringe.
Bitcoin City will tap into the geothermal energy that the volcano produces below ground, funneling it into the grid. A little further to the west, steam from the Tecapa volcano is being used to carry out Bitcoin mining. Unsurprisingly, a lot of this mining is going to be going on at Bitcoin City too.
Why use it for Bitcoin instead of using it for the public? Because capitalism, baby! Profit is the only thing that matters anymore.
Getting it to work at a citywide level will be a significant challenge. In fact, a lot of questions remain unanswered about the whole project, and details from the government have been a bit scarce.
I watched a documentary about Enron because I'm obsessed with corporate financial fraud. I didn't know this. They basically caused power outages in California because they found that they could make more money by siphoning power out of the power grids in California and like allowing California to be short on energy and then selling it back to the state of California at a really inflated price. Loads of Californians couldn't afford their bills because of it and they went without power. Fucking insanity, but that's capitalism, isn't it? And basically the whole thing was made possible by this whole idea of deregulation that they were going through. They were in cohorts with George Bush Sr. and George Bush Jr. They're basically mates with them, which meant basically that Enron could do whatever they want and loads of Californians couldn't afford their bills anymore, so they went without power whilst there was like millions and millions in dividends going to the shareholders in Enron. Fucking brilliant, isn't it? Capitalism. Just completely unregulated, unbridled capitalism. Fucking love it. Man, like with mark-to-market accounting, you can basically say whatever you think it's worth. Like, we're worth billions and billions and billions because blah 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 blah. There. And that's basically what SBF was doing at FTX with his FTT token. He's basically doing the exact same thing, but with a crypto token rather than stocks. Money's made up. It's not a real thing. It's time we got rid of money. Moon tangent!
To predict whether this scheme could be a success then, perhaps we should look at how well the rollout of Bitcoin in El Salvador has gone so far. Is the president's big bet paying off? Well, not exactly, at least not yet.
More than 1,000 people marched in El Salvador's capital on Tuesday to protest the government's adoption of Bitcoin as a legal tender.
I just love how this guy is just attempting to bring his country out of the awful debt that it's in by taking part in a get-rich-quick scheme. And he's just been running on the fumes of cope. There's a good breakdown here of the kind of guy that he is. He's removed judges that were opposed to him, including the entire constitutional chamber of the Supreme Court. Oh, who does that sound like? Bukele's new constitutional chamber, arguably illegally installed, issued an opinion that he can run for president again, despite the constitution limiting presidents to a single term, and he's now declared his intention to run again. World's coolest dictator, guys.
Many years, the phrase El Salvador was synonymous with violent crimes. El Salvador is one of the most violent places in the world. But then they got a new president, Nayib Bukele, and now it's a lot safer than Baltimore. So maybe we could learn something here in the United States.
I wonder where he's getting that information from.
The vice president recently said El Salvador was undemocratic. Meaning what? That they enact...
I just hate the way Tucker Carlson says everything. Undemocratic.
Society changing regulations without a vote? Oh no, that's them. Actually, we went to El Salvador not that long ago and found that Bukele seems very popular. In fact, he's an 86% approval rating.
Probably because their other choices were even fucking worse than him, to be honest.
Well, Bukele built a massive prison complex to house 40,000 gang members. He's not letting him out. He's putting him in. And so other people get to live.
Oh, that's the answer. You just need to be locking more people up, America. Let's just ignore the fact that you've already got what percentage of the world's incarcerated population? Already, the US held 21% of the world's prisoners in 2015, even though the US represented around 4.4% of the world's population in 2015. That's from Wikipedia.
Mr. President, thanks so much for coming on. So it sounds to me like you reduced the murder rate in El Salvador in a pretty straightforward way. I wonder why other heads of state aren't calling you for advice on how to do it in their countries.
I would guess that probably our approach, that is very, very popular with the people, has a problem. And the problem is that it has common sense. And
yes.
I say it's a problem because usually the new wave of governance is taking away common sense and started doing things the other way around, the way that, of course, you shouldn't do them. El Salvador was the worst and the most dangerous place to live. It was the murder capital of the world. And now we're on our way to be the safest country in the whole American continent.
Mr. President, thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Tucker.
He's full of shit. Tucker believes everything he says, of course. Basically, El Salvador's Bitcoin currency is going really terribly.